So just starting out, trying to take a look at the composition. I'm going to place this down in the corner, depending on how you're laying out your page, your drawing. I'm going to give it at an angle as well. And I'm going to borrow a little bit of the template as I get going through this. It's going to have the length of this sketch, and it does have a little foreshortening, so the meaning that the angle that this is the object has a little bit larger area in the foreground, in the front, and it tapers into the background, which is being in the back. So just kind of blending this out. And then once achieving that, it'll work out a little bit better. Okay. So again, just using a template, just going to give it a center line to help me along those pieces. And for this front piece, it's just a circle, so I'm just going to slap a circle in here to keep that in there. And again, you don't necessarily need to use the template, just kind of giving you at least a beginning of just to see it. And that gives you that section. So the end of this has a circular format, and here's the coming across piece. And just trying to tapering down this shaft, because once you get to the section that has the texture, it's going to be a little different look to it. So here's the ending of that part. And I'll just keep that just a little bit smaller. So all these different linear applications for it. And that's tapering down. So just connecting these two just with the tangent is going to force a little bit of the perspective. And then when I take a look at the final end, I'm just going to end it down here. And that'll give me a little clue as to how small to make that. So it gives you a pretty quick layout. Only thing missing is just the blade. I'm still keeping that section right there. Just using a little bit of a straight edge here. Brings that up. Again, turn your illustration to give you the best angle for your drawing. And really cement that in there. And again, the template's just kind of nice because it gives you something to sketch right up against. And once you get this, for example, this section that has the texture, still keep it with the idea it has this light source to illustrate, and just kind of shade right through the drawing. Don't worry about the texture yet. Just kind of get some tone in there. So just freehanding that in with a little assist from the straight edge. And just treating this in sections here. end piece. That kind of sets it up, and when you take a look at the shading, or at least the coloring of this blade, think of it as a gradient in some relation to that. From the circular part, you can almost see in this a little bit of the highlighting in there. So far I haven't touched the texture, just trying to put that in last. Use the entire drawing here. Be the tone. So this has a little bit of the metal reflection. And here. Right here. So again, where this edge goes, just going to give that right there. The edge of this gives you a little bit of a buffer to build that up with. Let's change this edge here. Let's see if I can crispen this up a bit. Kind of have most of this done. Now it's just a matter of the texture, and if you can look at it, try to analyze how it's coming across to where it kind of has almost like an S shape to it, to one of the lines as it starts. So it's crosshatch, but it's on a cylinder. So when you take a look at it, it's a good idea maybe start in the middle, at least for that, just to keep your wits about you. So I'm just kind of starting with an X. If you can imagine that as kind of a large texture, obviously, and then it has to be small. And if you can just simply make them parallel all the way across, draw through everything, then it'll make it much easier. But it's kind of trying to look where the texture is, keep it round on here, because it's going to disappear on you, and then keep it round here. And then if you can just make these parallel, it'll read as the texture very easily. So I'm just going to lightly sketch in the line just so you can see it. That's going one direction. And stay with the curve just since right-handed. And just try to start in the middle and just let it wrap itself around. Makes it a little bit easier. Just a light line at first. And that helps you keep it centered because you did the center one first and then keeps them parallel. Slowly builds that up. So when you take a look at a detail of this reference, you're going to start to see a lot of metal texture, and the depth of it is recessed, and it makes this diamond shape. And that's, again, just a pattern, so I'm just going to heavy up a part. So if I look at this as the shading of it, I can heavy up these parts that go into the value of the dark value, and maybe in the shadow that has a line coming across. Builds that up. And then just do the same thing on the crosshatch line. That up. And depending, you can take an eraser and try to take a look. Now if you're going to illustrate, I'm not going to take all of it out, just a section that's in the highlight. So the part that's on the opposite side. And just try to be consistent with that line. For most purposes, it kind of gives you that feel to it. And it's also embossed and laid down, so now you can go back in and just touch up a few of them to get the illusion of that diamond shape. And that's what builds that part up. So it's kind of a couple tricks in there. And then, like I said, when you blow up the drawing, you can see a little bit more textures and details to build that up. You see just how thick some of these are, which might give it a little bit more feeling of the illusion there. And then just trying to create a textured line on this part, contour line. You just try to get that far, and I think you'll get pretty happy with the result.